Hey, I want to welcome everybody to 60 Fit Club podcast. I'm Mike, Big Mike, or Big Darkness, as they call me on my IG, Big Darkness 59. My other co-host is Rojo. There he is right there, Big Rob.
Peace.
And basically what we're doing is we talk about topics about men that are 40 and over, going up in age, and we're talking about how to be more fit. So, with that being said, today's topic is lowering your risk of injury as we age. What do you think, Rob, about that?
Well, I think that's a good point. A lot of people will try to think that as long as you're lifting, you're going to still stay healthy. It's not true. There's a chance you getting injured while you're lifting, but and that's why we're here today. We just want to kind of share with them during the lifting phase and how you should go about starting over or even continuing, but yet you're noticing injuries, and we're going to tell you how to slow those injuries down and then just kind of move forward from there. But I think that the topic today will be a lot for people who are actually trying to get started, and because you know how it is, a lot of people want to jump right into it, and that's just not the way to go about doing it.
So, what are the first things that we need to do? Starting out, we haven't done anything in a while. We kind of went over this before, but I'm like 40, 45 years old, 50 years old, and I haven't been doing anything. How do I start, Rob?
I'm a number one believer in getting your health checked. I mean, a lot of people don't have the insurance, or the ones who do have the insurance, really go and get yourself checked. Just kind of have an idea of where you're at. Even though you might be feeling your best right now, there could still be some underlying issues that you don't know about, especially with your blood levels, your test, your thyroid issues, estrogen levels. All those things come into play when you're trying to like really stay healthy. And if you don't have a doctor, just make sure you start off slow. Make sure it's a walk-in process, and then just go from the walk process to maybe a light jog or whatever the case may be. But I would say definitely get checked. And for those of you who can get checked properly through a doctor, definitely have them check your test levels. You also want to check your thyroid levels. That's very important. And another one that I totally believe in is that our estrogen level, believe it or not, guys, we can have just as high levels as women. And so it's an important factor that you go and get those things checked, because they can definitely bring it down for you, so you can start having that good recovery time and feeling a little better, and stop crying at commercials and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Because your
exactly,
emotions will kick
exactly,
in.
exactly. So
Yeah.
basically, saying make sure before you prior to starting that you're healthy enough to start. That you won't force anything on you medically induced
Yeah.
or induced because you're not, your levels are not where they should be or whatever. And I totally
Absolutely.
agree with that. Yes, yes.
Yeah, man. So, it's one of those things. When you look at your background, I'm going to let you tell these people about your background, and where you come from and how things go. We've been doing this now for probably almost a month now, and we've had guests on, but we also want to let you know who you're actually talking to, and that we besides our experience and the things we have in common, we definitely want you guys to understand that we had that life of that tough country time eating, and all those things take place. So it's a process. It's nothing that's going to just happen overnight. But believe me, once you understand why you're doing it, that you will realize that, you know what, man, I can't change. I don't have to continue to eat the way I did when I was
Right.
younger. We're still healthy. We're still alive. We're still doing well. But it's always a progress in everything, and definitely when it comes to our food intake.
So what's your story, Rob?
Well, man, I was born and raised in a little country town, just south of Houston, actually, town called Horton. That was 5,000 people there where I grew up, man. And what was nice about growing up in that area is that everybody got along. We dealt with the outside stuff, as you know, back then, segregation and stuff like that. But our families, the people who we grew up with, we all kind of have a culture in like four major blocks in the little town, and everybody got along. You knew everyone. My mom and dad, of course, was my mentors all the way through, until they left this earth. And but the bottom line is that we was taught back then that how important it is to that camaraderie with family, and the dynamics that you create with everybody in your surroundings. And that was something that I took away with me, and I've kind of lived with it. I grew up, man, with my mom, doing whatever she had to feed us. And I never was hungry, never felt hungry, but we was poor. And my dad made $35 a day. So it was one of those things where we still kept going, still was able to like move forward until my dad moved to the next level and got a really nice job. And then life started to change for me, probably in the 7th grade. You know, back then, guys, people who are listening to this, I didn't even have an inside restroom until I was in the 7th grade. I had to go outside at night to go to the restroom. So believe me,
Hey, I remember going to my grandma's house, and you're right. She didn't have a restroom until I was probably in about the 7th, 8th grade.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, waking up at age 9, 10, you going out in the backyard to go to the restroom. You know, it kind of makes you tough. It makes you tough and realize, you know, exactly what's going on in life, man. But I was blessed. I had a good family. Had my parents show me the way. They showed me solutions. I've seen little arguments within the house, but I understood solutions by watching them recover. Before it was time to go to bed, they recovered and everything was just fine. So I'm able to carry that number one in my adulthood. My dad was big on sports, but he was also big on schooling. My mom was my sister, so she was there to support me whatever was going on. But dad was like, no, this will happen. And so I got a chance to get through school. I graduated from school. During my time of playing sports, baseball was my number one love. I love baseball.
Man, we got so much in
And
common.
yeah, it was my number one love. I was the kid who laid in bed and threw the ball up against the wall at nighttime. You now see that on TV shows, but I actually was the kid who did that because I love baseball so much. And during my time right out of high school, you know, I got talked to by the Cincinnati Reds, and all those things was taking place. So I had a great chance of doing it. I was a pitcher, and I was pretty good at it. But during football time, my dad said, no, this is probably going to be your best direction, just because back then, all of the levels that you had to go through with baseball, and you still have to go through them. And I think with me choosing football was good for me because it gave me a chance to get to the point where I actually saw on TV, as you can probably see in my background back here. I had a chance to go to both USFL and NFL, so I had some experience in both of those sports, levels of sports, I should say. And it was good for me. It was really good for me. After I got out of the league, I had a compound fracture. Broke my arm. Wasn't able to pass any sport, any test after that. I just couldn't do it anymore. It was hurting me so bad, and I decided to get out of it. And after I got out of that, I became a cop for 13 years total. A couple of years in Texas, and then the rest took place in San Diego. I was in all levels of law enforcement, from starting in the jails, which was you know, corrections at the time, and I was able to go from that to K9, and then from K9, you know, you do. I went to the academy, and then I was an academy instructor. So I had great experience, great times at it. As far as my family side of things, meaning my own personal family, I have 2 boys, 24 and 25, Jake and Zachary. Good kids. My oldest is in San Diego right now with his mother, and my youngest is in Kansas City. He's a coach for a little college team there. So he's doing really well. I was able to, you know, get some good out of a marriage, and you know, we all have those issues where things change, and you know, and it just, you know, unfortunately things do happen. But now at this day right now, I've got the perfect woman for me. She's just been number one. Like,
Awesome.
got my back. We make decisions together. That number one thing that I believe in solutions. We have solutions. Yeah, we might growl at each other every once in a while, but we got solutions. We really, you know, if you're not having some type of little disagreement, then it ain't real. You're just kind of faking it, right?
Exactly.
And so, but that's where the growth pattern comes with us. And that since she's a good communicator and I'm a good communicator, it allows us to speak our mind without taking every little high raise in volume as an argument. It's just an excited discussion in a sense. But we know that we know what level to stop, because the last thing I want to do, and I'm sure I can speak for her, is to disrespect one another.
Yes.
So, you know, so with that being said, I just, you know, give all the love to my parents for showing me that those things can happen. And I've now found a woman that will allow me to practice those things without thinking that if I'm want to discuss something, that it's not an argument, it's something I need to know, or vice versa. I need to know from her, but we get along great. So I'm very happy with that. And life in Houston right now, Sugar Land to be exact, is great. Our life is good, and we're able to do stuff that we want. We're rich in our own way. We don't have like tons of money in the account, but we have tons of love and enough money to let us go do what we need to do.
That's all that matters.
And so it's been a really good thing, and life here is just on point. Always looking for growth though. We both want not want more, but we want to be able to do more and more time freedom. Time freedom is probably our most precious thing we got. Yeah. And if we can enjoy now at age 62, man, I don't want to run out of time where I can't go anywhere, right?
Exactly.
And so that's what we're doing right now. Right. And just having this moment with you, meeting you, I know that one day we're gonna meet, and me and you and your honey and my honey, we're gonna do something, somewhere together.
Hey, we're gonna surprise. My goal is to surprise them when I pop up and say, "Hey, we're together on the podcast."
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Absolutely, brother. So so that's me, and in that basket is just pretty simple, man. I'm just happy that my life is good now, and I cannot overstate that. Having a great partner in your life makes life so much easier.
Exactly.
My wife is the best. So
hey,
for sure.
I see you beaming every time you talk about it too.
Yeah, man.
And just to go in, a little bit about myself, background. Man, we have similar backgrounds, but as we got older, I think we got more similar. My parents were from the South, but they moved to Los Angeles. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles, in South Central LA. So I grew up in South Central LA. For me, growing up was difficult because I was a mama's boy, but my dad, man, he was that tough Southern love kind of guy where he didn't really know how to, express himself or affection because he had that tough love. So, I'm the middle child. Middle child always gets neglected. I always say that.
Right.
I skipped 2.5 grades, so I was real insecure coming up. Even though physically I looked the grade I was supposed to be in, I just didn't feel like I fit in because I was like I said, 2.5 grades. That's a lot. I was, I graduated high school. I graduated high school at 16. So we lived in LA, man, and my dad was always on me, real negative as far as doing things. My mom was my support system, like you said. My mom was, man, when I would come home, my dad talking about, hey man, my dad didn't even pick me on his baseball team. That's how bad it was.
Right.
And my dad, I don't know if that was his way of motivating me a lot of the times. And my thing was, I guess for years and years, I wanted to just please him and, find a way to please him. So the year he didn't pick me on his baseball team, I ended up being the MVP of the whole league in LA. Baseball was my sport. I was drafted late in the rounds because back then, if you signed, you gave up your amateur status. And I love football, but baseball was my first love too, as well.
Right.
All through high school, I played baseball, basketball, and football. But football, by my senior year, I went to football and baseball, and then they let me run track a little bit because our baseball team was real good. We were ranked number 1 in our division in the state of California, so we had a real good baseball team. Then going to college, instead of taking a scholarship right out of high school, my mom had cancer. And back then, if you went away to school and came back, you lost years of eligibility. So I knew she would pass within a year. So I went the JC route. So I went to Fullerton JC, which at the time was a national powerhouse. I said, if I'm going to go JC, I'm going to go to the best. Went there. I ended up being like the number 2 receiver in the nation coming out of there, and ended up at Purdue and played there. Only 10-win team at Purdue. And everybody always says, hey, well, Drew Brees was there. Drew Brees never won 10 games. We did. My quarterback was Mark Herman. He ended up 3rd in the Heisman, so we had a real good team. We had All-Americans. Keena Turner was on the team. We had guys that got drafted and played. had opportunities to play in league and also played in USFL. We probably played against each other, Rob. I probably ran past you a couple times, but
that's possible. That's possible.
and then after that, man, I just said, hey, you know what? I'm done. I had my little 15 minutes of fame. I was happy with it. I did well. And that's when I went into a peace officer corrections. I went into that field, but I worked with the juveniles in the state of California, and I did that for almost 25 years. And I retired as a captain, and I loved it, man, because I love working with kids. And and that's when I decided the reason why I decided to bodybuild, because team sports, I was like, you know what? I don't want to depend on nobody but me for one. So if I get on the stage and blow it, I can't say that guy missed a pass or I didn't do my job. So I had to do what I had to do to win. It's all about me. I couldn't blame nobody else. So that's when I started bodybuilding. I had always been working out and everything, but I said, hey, I want to start bodybuilding. And I got into fitness. And then, throughout the process, I got married and I had 2 kids, Michael and Megan. Michael's the oldest, Megan's my daughter. That's daddy's girl. I got a daddy. I got a son and daughter, and that was it. I was like, hey, I'm done. And like you said, me and my spouse, it didn't work out, but you know what? Hey, we have 2 beautiful kids, and we say that all the time, and we still, we're still amicable where we can talk and stuff and everything. And then, as life goes on, I find somebody, and then, like we said, hey, that's where you build your foundation with. So, that's kind of me in a nutshell right there. So let's get back to our topic though,
Right on. Yeah, man. So we was just kind of going a little bit about, lowering the risk. And I believe in 100% starting off slow. I mean, a lot of people say no, and most things you want to start off fast so you can get there and then you can start building. But one thing about rebuilding your body, there is no starting fast. Starting fast and rebuilding your body is like saying, you know what, I want to run 100 miles tomorrow and I never ran the race. It's just not going to happen, right? And
you'll burn out and then you'll be back where you started, right?
Absolutely. So that starting phase and realizing that your results, we talked about once before about people, why do they quit? And most people quit because of the tangibleness. They want something tangible. They want it right now. And you have to understand that whatever your physique is right now and you don't like it, imagine how long it took you to get it. So now to refix it, it's going to take just that long. So you can't rush back into it. But what's good about it is that muscle memory. So if you've done it, you have to understand you can get it back, but don't expect it to happen in a week or 2, 3 weeks, even a month. I always say 90 days is give yourself 90 days at least. 90 days where you can really say, okay, now I can see a change. And then you can really start pushing yourself a little bit harder and try to make things happen on from there. But I think the biggest reason that people quit is that their goals are set too high. And if they don't receive them in the first week and a half, then they get discouraged. And then they want to call it that it's too hard or it's not happening fast enough.
Agreed. And that's the main thing. Even, you're a trainer, a coach, and people like they come to you, hey, how fast can I get to be this size or this size? I said, what's the process? You have to trust the process, because you know what? You're changing your lifestyle habits.
Right.
That's what you're doing, because once you do that, this is part of your lifestyle. So then everything starts falling into place. Like you said, you got to give yourself 90 days. And, like you said, you got to get through the first 30 first. And then you got to get through the second 30. Then how that next 30, that's when you start really progressing and starting to see the things happening to your body. And that's when people start saying, hey, you know what? I think I can stick with this. But what happens? But what happens, Rob, when you get an injury? All right, I'm 2 years in, doing well, looking good, man. But all of a sudden now I got a setback with an injury.
Okay, when you have an injury, that's when your body's telling you to rest, not stop, but to rest. And so when those injuries come into play, make sure you focus on healing the process instead of trying to rush the process. And then next thing you know, that injury become something that you really have overdone it even more. And at that point in time, your return time to the gym or to whatever physical fitness you're doing is going to be delayed even more. So something about injuries, man, I always tell people who I know, I said the first 48 hours of an injury, you need to ice it. You have to ice it, because at that point in time is what you're doing is healing the muscle group, taking away the swelling so that you can heal properly. The swelling side of it is just a protection phase. It's protecting that area. But if you heal it, you let it heal itself, and then let those muscles start to grow, to what happens? The swelling goes away, right? So it's the same process. The ice goes there to stop any tears, because what happens is that with the blood circulation that is going, you're taking that bruised blood and you're pushing it throughout your body constantly if you're putting heat on it too soon. Right. So the ice will coagulate the area, help get everything to kind of get back in place a little bit, if you want to use that term, but it'll just help you with your recovery time. And so ice first for the first 48 hours, I always say, and then you can go heat, ice, that 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off. Light stretching, don't do anything overbearing that's going to cause you to like re-injure those muscle fibers, and then next thing you know, you're back to square one.
Right, because a lot of people want to go back to it, say, okay, hey, I iced it for first 48, 72 hours. I'm just going to go right back to it. And then what happens is they re-injure themselves, or they injure themselves worse. And then
absolutely,
and the mindset sits in. Now they start missing days. You can't make those days up. And then next thing you know, you missed days, you missed weeks, and then you're back to square one when you started several months ago. And,
that's right.
And people don't understand that it's everything, like we talked about, like I said before, it's a process to how you do things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Rob, you're a little bit over 40. I'm pretty sure you've had a few injuries or anything. What injuries have you had, and how did you come back from them?
Well, man, in my late, I was probably 55. No, 54. I know exactly now, because it's right before I turned pro. Okay, so at age 54, I tore my my meniscus. And I tore my meniscus by just jogging downhill. You know what I mean? Not running, but my body was just not prepared to be a runner. And so my knees was like, yo, what's happening here, right? So I tore my meniscus. Yeah, and so I went in, and I let the doctors check it out, and they gave me a cortisone shot. The cortisone shot lasts for about, I don't know, maybe 2 months, right? And then the pain started coming back. And so they said, okay, we'll give you one more cortisone shot and we'll see what happens. They gave me a second cortisone shot, and as you know, that you can only get about 2 or 3 per year. So now I'm going in on my second one, and it lasted maybe 3 days. And the pain was so unbearable that I went in, I go, look, that's something a lot more. So you go through the whole process, people. Believe me, you go through this process to where, number one, they're going to tell you get an x-ray. You and I both know an x-ray ain't going to show any tears or nothing like that. It's going to look for bones, right? So it's pretty much your insurance status on how I think everybody make money. Sorry, but everybody makes money. And it's like you go to one doctor and he gives you an x-ray, knowing the x-ray not going to do anything. Then you get a recommendation or so-called referral to say, okay, now go get an MRI. Then the MRI person says, okay, now let someone read these records. And then they determine the surgery, right? So with the meniscus tear for me, I was out probably maybe a week and a half before I started doing really light leg extensions. But for the first week, the first day, second day afterwards, they want you up on it, walking around doing some stuff.
Right.
But they knew I was going to go to the gym, so they made me wear one of the the Velcro leg braces that they put around your leg, and so that I wouldn't bend it and do extra stuff. But the meniscus was my toughest thing. It was my fear factor, thinking that I was not going to be able to work on my legs anymore, because once I started with the rehab, which is really important, people rehabbing, is that I did my rehab stuff and I could do light extensions, but when I got ready to do a curl, I could not pull. It wouldn't allow me to pull. So so this was all just time. So rehab is really important. Rehab is something that a lot of people will neglect, and then they will wonder why they have this, this stiffness and all of the scar tissue build and all of that. So really, really, really follow your doctor's plan for your rehab. And if you do have a background already, then just make sure you go ahead and complete that rehab process. And it may take you 2 months to really get back 100%, but you're going to appreciate it in the long run instead of just wanting to get out there and do something that you've been doing that the knee is not telling you you can do it, but the mind is telling you you can do it, and you end up having a real problem. My other injury I had was I had a dislocated rib, my upper rib, right next to my sternum. And the worst pain I've ever had, because I've had 3 broken ribs from football, right? And where you can't breathe, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so I dislocated my chest one by doing a decline. And I think I just had too much weight, and I dropped my elbows too far back, and it just pop. And I heard the pop. And the only way they could put it back in position is that a chiropractor had to get on top of me and just pop it back into place.
Wow.
Because it's up, you know, your sternum area, most of your ribs right, your cartilage right there onto the sternum. So it was just kind of popped up and not broken, but just popped up, and he popped it back in place. The worst pain that you can imagine.
Oh, I know.
But,
I know.
Yeah, but I knew that I was getting ready for a show, and I had to continue to train. So I did everything around that to keep me going. I didn't quit. I go, you know what? I know I can do legs. I know I can do arms. I know I can do all these things to keep me going. And believe it or not, I ended up winning the first classic physique competition in San Diego. Became Mr. San Diego, and I won the overall bodybuilding at the same time. So it was one of those moments where I kept grinding. I didn't quit, but I knew I couldn't work on the part that was injured, but I kept grinding. And so it's mental, man. It's one of those mental things. I mean, you mentioned it on our last talk that people find excuses to walk away. They find excuses to stop. And if you choose to find an excuse, man, there's anything that keep you from going to the gym. I don't want to wake up in the morning. Oh, I forgot to prep my meals. Oh, I forgot. How do you forget any of that stuff? You just choose not to, in a sense. But you know, it's just mental.
So it basically made you focus more, and that's probably why you became a champion.
Yeah, it definitely made me focus on things I could and couldn't do, and really worked hard on the things I could do. Yeah, but it was a turnaround. But yeah, that's what happened, is that you have to just keep going, but not overdo things that are actually injured and move forward.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Have you had any crazy injuries?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in 2016, I had been having shoulder problems with my right shoulder for years. And I went to the doctor, and I had a pretty progressive doctor. He was doing all kind of stuff, like needle therapy and everything. And then finally one day he went in, I did the 2 cortisone shots and everything. I couldn't lift my shoulder, my arm. When I took a shower, I had to put it like this and hang it on the pole to wash my arm, but I could still lift weights.
Wow.
It was weird. The doctor's like, how are you still lifting, benching 300 and stuff and everything, but you can't? It was weird. But he told me, he said, you know, when you first came in here, I didn't want to tell you because I know you work out all the time, but I knew a year ago that you needed to replace your shoulder. And I just wanted to go through the process of everything, try to do everything else to give you a little bit more time. And then when he told me that, man, you know, I was already in real good shape. And I said, hey, let's go ahead and do it. So we had one of the best 2 doctors that could do it. There were sports doctors that did it. And I was glad, because they said, because I have so much, you know, when you build that muscle up, you have to be able to, I guess they have to push it back so the rod won't get caught or whatever. So it's got to be done the right way. And I got my right shoulder totally replaced. And after about a week, I asked him when my weekly checkup, my first week checkup, I said, hey, when can I start doing anything? He said, well, you can't do anything because it's your right arm. You don't want to, you got to let that bump, it's got to fuse, the rod's got to fuse in your arm. But you can do cardio if you do a ride the bike, but you can't, you know, make sure you have your brace on and everything. So I started riding the bike for an hour a day for the first week. Next week, I started doing 2 hours because I'm like, I got to do something. And then as I got more progressive and stronger, I still had I had to wear my brace for 8 weeks. I started doing legs. I started doing just squats, air squats, you know, to a bench, stuff like that. And then once I got stronger, I could do lunges and stuff. I had somebody there watching me and stuff. Then I started doing, hey, I found a way to do squats, putting the bar on the back of my neck, and leg presses.
Sure.
People would put the weights on for me and everything. So
Right.
I was doing legs just about every day, Rob.
Wow.
And doing cardio. And here's the kicker. The surgery was in May. Never forget, in August, me and my son, we're working out and I was doing leg presses. And all of a sudden, man, it felt like I couldn't catch my breath. And I thought maybe, you know, I pulled a rib muscle because, you know, we play football. We like, you know, injuries. And I'm like, can't breathe. So he's like, nah, we got to go to the doctor. So we go to emergency. And after they ran all the tests, they found out that I had blood clots, you know. So now, you know, I got blood clots in my lungs and I'm in the hospital. And then the doctor says, hey, you know, we got to put you on Coumadin and stuff like that. And they got to, you know, they inject you first to get you ready for blood thinners and stuff. And then after I got out the hospital, I went and saw my regular doctor, you know, for that first visit. And he's like, I know what you're going to ask me. When can I work out? He said, I'm going to give, it's two things. Hope somebody at the gym knows how to work the defibrillator if you start working out now, or you're going to fall flat on your face and have a heart attack. You have to let the Coumadin, you have to let the blood thinners when you first start out at least for 3 months, 2 to 3 months. Right. So now you got to remember, I haven't worked upper body since May. So I couldn't do anything and I was in great shape. And now I get to the point where I'm back to square one. I'm talking about as a person back to square one. Didn't quit. I'm starting to walk. When the doctor gave me approval, I started walking. And then I started I could do my therapy again for my shoulder. And that's when I started coming back. It was a process. It was a rehab process,
right?
You know, before I started really working out. And when I first started, man, I had like 2.5 pound weights, you know, to get my stuff back. And I was doing maybe 10 squats. And then as I went and went, I got better every day. I said, I'm gonna do one more every day, whatever I needed to do. And that's how I recovered. It was a mindset. I could have easily quit and gave up and said, hey, you know what? I don't need to work out anymore. But working out was
being afraid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It was a fear. And my family was scared. Yeah, they were like, hey, you know, we don't want you. And then when they saw that I could, and the doctors gave me the okay, and I started getting back. Because that's when my daughter was working out with me a lot. And she would go to the gym with me. They wouldn't let me go to the gym by myself or anything. And then, hey, man, I started when they realized I was back. And I tell people this all the time, that, hey, it's a process. And if I didn't have perseverance, and if I didn't have patience, and if I didn't have the discipline, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, because I wouldn't be the person I am now as far as working out and staying fit and showing people that, hey, even when you're over 40, 50, 60 years old, when you have something, a setback, there's still a need if you can, you know. And that's one of my shirts. I said, as long as I can, I will.
Right.
You know, and that's my philosophy. As long as I can, I will. And that's what we have to do. You know?
Yeah. And we cannot overspeak the fact on that it's never too late, people. It's never too late. So it's not about going in there and keeping up with the Joneses. It's going in there and keeping up with yourself, and just keep doing what you're doing, because your health it's something that we take for granted. But then you hear someone like, you know, Michael here, and he talks about having blood clots and all those things. Would not have even paid attention to it if he wasn't in the gym. You know what I mean? Those things took place there that kind of gave him an awareness. So it's all about exertion, getting your heart rate up every once in a while, letting that system tell you if it's overheating, if it's running or it's not running, because that heart monitor, that's that check light in your car. So make sure that heart monitor tells you something.
You can say no better than that.
Yeah, it's definitely telling you go get something done. So Don't sit back and wait for that check light to come on, man. Just go start doing some stuff, keeping that oil change. I'm going to always preach it all the time. You know, motion is lotion. And if those arthritis things are happening, you can slow them down. Just get out there and do something. Walk. I don't care what it is. Do something. Just do something, and you'll find that that you will notice things that may be something just an awareness. It could be just an awareness thing, and that you wouldn't have known if you wouldn't push yourself that hard and found out that your heart couldn't handle it. All those things. So be good to yourself. Take care of yourself, and listen to Michael's story. Mine was elementary to what he went through. So this is someone.
It's still tough, no matter what we do. That's why I tell people that we don't gloss over anybody's injuries. You know, you still had to process, you still had to do it, and people need to understand that. You know, that's why it's good that both of us on there, because we're sharing totally different things. And I know on my Instagram, I've shared that I've had a shoulder replacement, and there's been a few guys that have hit me up. And one guy was a dentist, and he was overseas, and he was 30-something years old, and he thought he could never use his arm again or shoulder again because because he's a dentist, and he's doing well now. And it's another guy that's 60-something. He's a Masters champion, and I think he's overseas. His name is Mr. Biceps, and I don't know if you saw the story on my page. He just had his shoulder replaced, and he said, "Man, I appreciate when I reached out to you that you gave me that information, because I made sure I was in great shape before." And he said, "It doesn't hurt like I thought it would." He said, "I'm ready to rehab now already." Yeah. So what we're doing, Rob, sometimes we may not think it's important, or we might not think we're reaching people, but we are every day, man, because I got people hitting us up, and that's why I'm glad we got together. Definitely.
Yeah. And so what I want to say real quick is that you people out there, man, go ahead and subscribe to this. If you're listening to it, just subscribe so that even if you can't watch it live, you'll be able to catch it. And you can go back and maybe hear a couple of things. It won't be all enlightening, but it'll be a couple of things that you may can pick up from it and can adapt and implement it to your own lifestyle. But we're here just sharing. We're not here for likes. We're not here for numbers. We're here to kind of share what we went through. And the reason why we're doing it is that we've had people have asked us to do it, and they know our history. And so, like I said, we met just like we are right now, talking over the web. And so now we have this relationship that other people are seeing, who's saying you should continue to share more. So why not? And so that's why we're here. And once again, this is all about lowering your risk of injury and to kind of clog things up. We want to make sure that you're training. Make sure that you're actually doing things slowly. Make sure that if there's any injury, anything that's happening, make sure you take care of it before you continue on. The number one thing is that if you don't have a doctor, just make sure you go slow. And the final thing is I will always, and I'm sure Michael will tap off on this, and is that make sure that your nutrition is on par. Yep. Because if you're out there and you're eating the wrong foods, you're just not going to change. That's going to be frustrating for you. So you might as well go ahead and do all of the things that's necessary for you to get going. It's like putting bad gas in your car. It runs bad. If you put good gas in your car, it runs nice. So same thing with us. And just focus on foods, and don't look at it as being a diet. I hate that word diet. Yeah. It's not my favorite friend. It's a lifestyle change. It's your new meal plan. It's the things that you're doing. You're eating for source of energy and fuel, not for taste and all of that. But you can create your own taste. It's all about adding a little of this, adding a little of that. But you don't want to be adding the wrong stuff and the fast foods and all that stuff. But and just try to live a normal life and implement good things so that you can move forward.
And to follow up on that, because I know it's time probably for us to close a little bit. Like Rob said, hey, follow us, check that subscribe button, tell your friends. If you have any questions, anything, you can DM me on Instagram at Big Darkness 59, and you can also DM Rob on Instagram at 60 and you can also just hit us up right here. I'm pretty sure you can. It's a way to ask us questions here, and I know guys have been asking us questions, and we will be having more guests on. We got some surprises we're working on. Some guests that can really enlighten, that can help and teach and coach. And one thing that I want to say also, when you're starting out, if you haven't done anything in a while or you haven't really worked out at all, it's probably best for you to get a coach or a personal trainer, but do your research first, you know, and see what they're about and if they're fit for you. Don't just go to the first person and say, I'm gonna do this, because they may not be the right fit for you. They might have the personality, they might not have the knowledge, but do some research and do it. If your health is your wealth, if you can spend money on other stuff and not your health, think about it. You're not going to be there. So remember that. That's what I always say. Your health is your wealth. And you're always talking about, hey, being there. And that's our goal. We want you to be here for a long time. So be in preventative mode and doing things, be fitter, be healthier, be happier, be more disciplined, more focused. And that's basically all I got today, Rob.
Right on. Well, we'll see you guys out there in TV land, as I always call it. Hopefully next weekend on a Sunday at 8 p.m. We're here. 6 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. I'm sorry, it's 8 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Pacific, way out there in California. So you guys just share this stuff, man. And then if you got any questions, feel free and just send in something. We'll check it out. We'll talk about it the next show. Or if you need to know an answer right now, just DM us, as he stated, and we'll get back at you. So you guys have a good one out there. Safe out there and do the right thing. Peace out.